Yo, what's up YouTube? Here we are with another video, man. I had to restart the stream because my webcam, the stream was running smooth, but my webcam and OBS, like it just froze. So yeah, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of like this whole reaction thing. You guys are supposed to get my voice, you guys are supposed to also get like facial expressions and everything, but let's redo this intro, man, after I burp. But anyway, hopefully you guys are having a good one. If you guys are new to the channel, I'm KD. So we're going to be watching some paranormal videos. Watch part 1 because it ended pretty much, you know, right after a video. So it wasn't like just in the middle of a video. I don't know when my webcam froze though, but I was still talking and everything, and then I just cut it off right after I finished a video. So I think we watched just 2 videos in that one, and then we're starting it back with this. I hate when streams mess up, but shit happens, you know what I mean? So yeah, so we're gonna get into this one. Is warning: these scary mysteries left authorities shook. So I'm watching on a channel called Slapped Ham, as you can see, and this is normally where I watch most of my paranormal videos. And yeah, dude, like I'm sorry that the stream messed up, but let's get right back into it. If you guys like the video, please leave a thumbs up, and if you guys want to subscribe and come on those post notifications so you know when I do post more videos. Yeah, let's see what else we can find. Also, still, like I said in the other stream, I have to check out a video that somebody suggested in a paranormal reaction video that I did, like I believe it said it was like a few days ago or whatever. So I'm going to check that out, but for now we're going to check out this video, and then I'll check out the one that was suggested. I believe it's a movie trailer. So anyway, let's get right into it. Enough of me talking. Let's do it.
Were life-size mannequins on the porch of a house on Main Street in a sleepy New York town trying to convey messages from the beyond. Believed to be the oldest house in New Hamburg's historic downtown, 9
That's never
Main
good.
Street hosted bizarre
Moving into the
mannequins.
oldest house.
These mannequins changed clothes and positions regularly between 2005 and 2017. Little is known about who lived in the home during this time. However, the history of the property is well known. On a cold night in February 1871, a 25-car freight train on the Hudson Line derailed about 200 feet from the John Lawson house. It then erupted into a fiery ball that claimed the lives of 22 people. More tragedy enveloped the property just a few years later. A fire took out nearly all the properties surrounding the John Lawson house. This is where the theory of the origin of the mannequins becomes interesting. Many people believe that the mannequins are inhabited by the souls of those who perished in the fiery incidents.
What?
Many astute observers have noticed that the mannequins always seem to be staring towards the site of either the train derailment or the origination point of the fire that followed. Of course, many dismiss the mannequin mystery as nothing more than a creative hobby of a homeowner, perhaps taking advantage of a scenic porch that's visible from the town's busiest road. Adding to the confusion is that the John Lawson house has been sold and listed on the market several times within the last decade. This means that successive owners of the house would have had to have been in on the mannequin mystery for it to continue. Unfortunately, for anyone looking to
imagine
scout
if
out
they
the
just
home,
found a note that was like
mannequin
continue
activity
it.
stopped after it was sold to its current owner in 2017. Said to reveal
Yeah,
chilling
I think somebody
mysteries
was
of
just doing
long-kept
that.
government secrets, the Book of Alien Races has marketed itself as a supposed treasure trove of secret Russian KGB information.
Okay, so this isn't in the last stream that I did, not part 1 of 5, but number 4. We started looking up some alien type stuff. That's why the stream is called Reacting to Paranormal and Alien Videos. So before then, you know, 3 and, you know, the previous ones, I didn't look up any alien stuff, and it was suggested that I should. So that's what I ended up doing. And I started talking about a book called Project Blue Book, which was a book kind of like just talking about a whole bunch of alien stuff, but then also showed different alien races. And as you can see in this book, it's kind of the same thing. Damn, I hit the tripod, but it's kind of the same thing. So they show the reptilians here on the left, and then the UFO, of course, and then they show the grays, which is on the right. But there's also some other ones. I forget which one it is, but they have one where it's like they're all white people, but they're very, very tall, and they have long blonde hair. And yeah, like it's crazy in that book, just a bunch of stuff that it shows. I came across the link a long time ago, watched the video, and it showed that. And then, you know, they were talking about it and like ancient aliens and all this different stuff. So I was able to actually get a copy, but I think it was on a computer that I lost years ago. Not lost, but my backpack was stolen, so I don't have it anymore. But anyway, I think this is pretty much the same type of book. I was just saying it because if you guys watched stream number 4, then you guys would know what I was talking about. It's pretty much the same thing.
Thought to have originally been written in 1946 as a manual to inform KGB agents of the various alien races that have already visited Earth, the text was said to have eventually been translated from Russian into English by a former European Special Forces sergeant named Dante Santori. Collecting first-hand accounts of long covered-up alien encounters as well as Russian documents guarded by the KGB, this book is full of information. While skeptics doubt the authenticity of several of the events detailed in the book, many seem consistent with those historically recounted in several American and European UFO sightings. The book chronicles Russia's relationship with aliens over time, detailing Russia's attempt to create their own spacecraft, as well as their communications with various alien races over the years. It also acts as a guide for the human understanding of alien life forms, recounting their possible intentions regarding the human race, some of which are not positive. While the concept of a leaked alien text is certainly fascinating, if it were true, it would have the power to rewrite history. Unfortunately, without further information regarding its authenticity, this book will have to remain a mystery.
Also, leave down in the comment section if you guys do believe in aliens. Some people do, some people don't.
Authorities baffled begins in Hadley Wood, Enfield, North London. Kennedy Ife was a typical 26-year-old living with his parents and 5 brothers. One day, he began to complain of some symptoms, including stomach and throat pain, and difficulty sleeping and breathing. At first, his family just thought he was coming down with a minor illness. However, he started to act differently, becoming withdrawn and sullen, very different from his usual demeanor. This behavior eventually escalated to extreme.
Oh, you know something's wrong with somebody if they're looking at the TV like that.
At family members.
The fuck's wrong with you, boy?
He even attempted to bite his own father.
Wow.
After this violent incident, Kennedy's family confronted him about his bizarre behavior. He told them that there was a seed inside of him that was growing into a serpent. Kennedy seemed incredibly agitated about this, even attempting on several occasions to mutilate himself with a knife to dig out the offending seed. He also rambled about the mark of the beast, the number 666 being on him. The family had these conversations with Kennedy repeatedly over the course of about 2 weeks before they eventually decided to take action. They believed that there was another personality inside of him, most likely a demon that was trying to kill him. They believed that they had to restrain him to protect him from himself. The family overpowered him and tied him to a bed with cables and handcuffs. They kept him there for 3 days while they prayed over him, hoping that their constant vigil would force the demon to leave. Throughout the 3 days, Kennedy alternately barked and growled like an animal. Near the end of the 3 days, he began to complain of dehydration and being unable to breathe. Kennedy Ife died of cardiac arrest after being tied to the bed for 3 days without food, water, or rest. The medical examiner later determined that the family most likely attempted to perform some sort of resuscitation based on the bruises on the body. However, numerous family members were arrested on charges of manslaughter, false imprisonment, and causing or allowing the death of a vulnerable adult. They denied the charges, insisting they were only trying to help him and that they never believed he was in any danger from their attempted exorcism. In the end, all were acquitted and set free. Even so, what really happened behind the closed doors of the Ife home remains one of the eerie mysteries that authorities will likely never solve. What do you think? Was there really demonic possession at play here? Was an exorcism justified, or was it gross negligence at the hands of an impressionable family? Love to know your opinions on this one in the comments section below.
With somebody snapping, I would think that it would take time. You know what I mean?
In September of 2006,
not just snapping overnight,
Sydney, Australia, experienced
but
a
I don't
terrible
know.
tragedy when their son Michael was killed in a car accident a mere 200 meters from home. While the family dealt with their grief, their home became the site of one of Australia's most perplexing paranormal mysteries. 40 days after Michael's death, his family noticed something odd in his old bedroom. A strange oil appeared to be weeping from the walls. The oil later spread to other rooms in the house. According to the family, on a few occasions, the oil has spelled out messages such as Michael's name and birth date.
What?
The oil also appears to form religious symbols sometimes. Michael's family believes he was chosen by God to return to heaven to be a messenger between humans and the divine. Ever since the weeping walls became international news, believers have been trekking to the home in hopes that the oil will grant them their own miracles. One woman ventured to the Sydney home hoping to receive help with her struggles to conceive a child. 1 month after praying in the home, she returned to inform the family that her prayers had been answered. Skeptics believe that the substance weeping from the walls is anything but miraculous. People from around the world have stated that walls can weep, from materials under the paint or leaks in the ceiling or pipes. However, extensive testing by the Antiochian Orthodox Archdiocese has been unable to locate a plausible source within the structure of the house. Testing of the oil itself has determined that the liquid is made up of water, gold, and a safe level of uranium. Archbishop Paul Saliba believes that the oil weeping from the home's walls has no earthly explanation. According to him, it's nothing short of miraculous. On November 23, 1944, at the height of World War II, a base in Kortenberg, Belgium became the site of one of the most perplexing wartime mysteries. The personnel at the base were shocked to spot a B-17 bomber hurtling towards them. No emergency call had been received, so no one was expecting to see a plane flying recklessly above. The personnel at the base could only wait and watch as the bomber plummeted towards them. Much to their relief, the crashing plane just missed the base's structures. As it passed, the soldiers noted that the landing gear was down. It hit the ground violently and began bouncing across the terrain before eventually coming to a stop. Relieved that no one at the base had been injured, the personnel watched with bated breath for the bomber's crew to emerge and explain their dramatic crash landing. 20 minutes passed, but the crew never appeared. Those who had observed the crash were hesitant to approach the plane. Their enemies had been known to resort to sneaky tactics, so they couldn't dismiss the possibility that this was a trap. Eventually, British Major John V. Crisp decided to investigate. Crisp cautiously approached the plane and opened its hatch. Inside, he made a startling discovery. The interior of the plane was empty. According to Crisp, he located partially eaten food, suggesting that the plane had recently been occupied. However, there were no people, alive or dead, and the plane's parachutes hadn't been used. How had the plane flown and landed without a crew? The military began investigating and eventually discovered
that would be weird, but I mean, my guess is like whoever it was escaped.
The plane had been damaged, so they set it on autopilot and bailed. But how had the plane travelled so far without a crew? And how had the crew escaped without parachutes? Even more perplexing, how is it that an unmanned plane managed to land in a military compound?
How would it be able to
later,
land?
These questions remain unanswered.
I don't know. That's weird.
Circleville, Ohio is a small town with just over 13,000 residents.
Circleville.
It was the type of town that you might describe as sleepy or quaint. However, in 1976, a series of mysterious letters sent the entire town into a panic, beginning one of the country's creepiest unsolved mysteries. These letters, mailed to several Circleville residents, were filled with vicious threats, vulgar drawings, and personal information that the recipients believed to be closely guarded secrets. The letters had no return address and used the same distinctive block lettering, likely an attempt to disguise the writer's actual handwriting. Most of the Circleville residents who were targeted received only a single letter. However, Mary Gillespie was unlucky enough to find multiple letters in her mailbox over the course of several months. Mary was a school bus driver. She received multiple letters accusing her of having an affair with the school's superintendent. The writer demanded that she put an end to the behaviour, saying that they would be watching her closely.
The hell?
Mary attempted to hide the letters. Then things took a turn. Another letter arrived addressed to her husband, Ron Gillespie. Ron was instructed to put an end to the affair. If he failed, he would die. Mary denied the claims, but her reputation was permanently ruined by the accusations. Then, on August 19, 1977, Ron received a phone call. He seemed angry and left the house with a gun. He was later killed in a car crash. The death was ruled an accident, but later letters suggested that the sheriff was covering up the truth. The letters ramped up after Ron's death. One even included a crude trap meant to kill Mary. Unable to take the pressure, Mary admitted to the affair. Her brother-in-law was accused of writing the letters and was arrested, but the letters continued during his confinement. No other suspects were ever identified.
Wow, that is weird. Not even paranormal, but it's just
The appearance of
still
Our Lady
strange.
of Zaytoun marked what is commonly known as a mass Marian apparition, or the reported appearance of Mary, Mother of Jesus. While this isn't the only one of its kind, it's nevertheless drawn worldwide attention due to its length. Occurring over a period of roughly 3 years, beginning on April 2nd, 1968, the appearance of Our Lady of Zaytoun was a massive phenomenon. It appeared in the Zaytoun district of Cairo, Egypt, and led to a lot of controversy over time. The first to notice the apparition was Farouk Muhammad Atwar, a bus mechanic, along with 2 other men. Positioned just out of St. Mary's Coptic Church, the group of men all believed to have seen a woman jump to her death. The police were called to the scene, and by the time they arrived, a massive crowd had gathered outside the church, all claiming to have seen the same thing. As there was no body, the police denied the events. So what did they all see? 1 week later, and reappearing several times over the course of the next few years, there were reported sightings of apparitions plaguing Zaytoun. News of the figure made it all the way to the Vatican itself, with Coptic Orthodox Pope Kyrillus IV
he looked
approving
creepy.
the sightings.
Like
Images
a
of
dude
the
from the first
apparitions were
Assassin's
captured
Creed.
by numerous Egyptian news outlets. The event was even acknowledged by the Egyptian president himself. The police could find no evidence of projection devices around Zaytoun. Given the overwhelming mass numbers of sightings, as well as the sheer amount of photographs capturing said apparitions over the years, the Egyptian government has had no choice but to acknowledge the appearance of the apparitions in Zaytoun during those 3 years as a real supernatural event.
Wow.
What do you think happened in Egypt all those years ago? Was it a real religious miracle or mass hysteria? Let me know what you think in the comments section below.
Alright, so the video or the trailer that somebody wants me to check out, it's kind of the same as this. Like he said, there's, sightings in different areas or whatever. But the one that I'm looking up, I think it's called Lady of Heaven or something like that. The Lady or Our Lady of Heaven or something like that. But pretty much the same thing. Like, I didn't look at the video, but I kind of looked up like what it's about or whatever. But other than that, like, I don't, it seemed like the same type of thing. So, yeah. We're going to watch that after this.
We've all experienced downpours heavy enough to have us proclaim that it's raining cats and dogs out there. Nature took things one step further in a small community in Kentucky, where it rained beef, lamb, deer, bear, horse, and other unidentified meats one strange day. It's documented that the sky rained meat in a little settlement called Rankin in Bath County, Kentucky. It occurred during a period lasting 1 hour between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. on the 3rd of March 1876. Very little about this bizarre event has actually been settled in the decades since it happened. However, it was recorded that chunks of red meat measuring in at about 2 inches by 2 inches fell from the sky in a square area covering 100 yards by 50 yards.
That's weird as hell.
These weren't neat cube chunks of meat like you might find in the grocery store either. Residents sitting on their porches observing the downpour reported that the meat looked grisly. People at the scene were able to identify a wide variety of meats. They ranged from everyday beef to bear flesh. Bits of meat were sent to Newark Scientific Association.
I've never heard of
for
this,
further
like,
review.
at all.
This
That's
revealed
weird.
that there was a high possibility at least some of the meat was human in origin. So what caused meat to pour down on this town 150 years ago? We may never actually know. The most popular theory blames birds. Locals who witnessed the event largely believe that buzzards or vultures had vomited up large heaps of meat after embarking on a feeding frenzy. Of course, some locals saw the carnage drizzling from the sky like a cruel storm as a warning sign from God. What happened in Kentucky will likely remain one of the weirdest unsolved scary mysteries of all time.
But that much different meat, I don't think it's just birds carrying it, you know? Still weird.
On the 5th of May 1979, calls began pouring into Birmingham, Alabama radio news and the local police department from motorists reporting a car driving around with a hand sticking out of the trunk. The reports spread like wildfire, frustrating police who were unable to locate the vehicle. Sending out one intern, Mark Wynn, and one photographer, Jerry Eyes, in search of the car, Birmingham News would do more than just break the story. They would become heroes. The pair remained determined even after 3 hours on the road without seeing the car. Finally, their efforts were rewarded when Wynn spotted the beige Dodge travelling northbound on Interstate 2059 in Ensley, a neighbourhood of Birmingham. However, that was the moment that reality sunk in for the pair.
Oh, this is the actual picture.
This was no joke, and they needed police backup immediately. Waiting for the police, the pair were faced with the difficult task of successfully tailing the vehicle without being seen. What's more, the two still had their journalistic duties to attend to, managing to capture photographic evidence of the event. Eventually, the driver of the vehicle became aware of the news reporter's presence. However, the reporters continued to tail the car as it was finally met with a Birmingham police convoy. When rescued, it was revealed that Gary Collier had spent 14 hours in the back of the trunk after being stabbed, beaten, and robbed. Trying desperately not to pass out from the carbon monoxide emitted from the vehicle's exhaust, he overheard two men discussing how they planned to finish him off. Luckily, Collier was able to get the attention of passing motorists by waving his fingers through a gap in the trunk. While the story ultimately had a happy ending, it could have been a far more sinister one. The chilling mystery is really where the men were planning to take Collier. If it wasn't for the unwavering and undaunted moral and journalistic integrity of Wynn and Ayres, the hand in the trunk mystery might have turned out very differently.
Yeah, that's weird. That's crazy.
A Florida teacher named Danielle Hunt.
Dude, I remember I was like, well, it's two things I need to say. So one, I remember I was like somewhere, I forgot what I was doing, but I wasn't in the car or anything. Like I was just on the street. And then this lady is driving fast. So this car drove by and they drove kind of fast, right? And there was this black lady in the car. And I hear her yelling, but I already hear her yelling from like down the street. So she's driving and she's getting closer to where I am. And then she's like, oh my God, they kidnapped somebody. And I'm like, what is she talking about? And at first I was like, what is she saying? And then I asked somebody else, I was like, what did she say? And then they were like, yeah, she said that like that car kidnapped somebody. And I was like, for real? So the car's just driving, but they're not really driving like at a crazy speed. Like they're really trying to get away. But she's like, I guess she noticed it and oh shit. Oh, that was my what's called. That was this thing. Oh, the string. I was like, what the fuck is this? Dude, it's like a string from a hoodie or something. I think this is what I saw earlier. But yeah, like, so the lady is like, I just seen myself on the stream. So the lady is like, yeah, they're kidnapping somebody. So she passes me, and she's still like yelling and stuff, and she's like following the car. And then she was like, they got, I just hear, the last thing I heard her say was like, they got somebody in the back seat. And I'm looking at the car and I'm kind of like, yeah, I see somebody, but it doesn't look like it's somebody like trying to get out of the car or like anything weird. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if the lady was just tripping or what, but I didn't hear anything about, anybody being kidnapped or whatever. I don't know what she seen before she got to where I was. You know what I mean? But she was chasing this car for sure, for sure. And like I said, first thing I heard her say was like, they kidnapped somebody. And then the next thing I hear before she like passes us is they got somebody in the back seat. And I remember trying to look at the car. The car didn't have window tint or anything. It was like, dude, just straight glass. Like they're fishbowling. And I'm looking, I'm like, I see somebody in the back, but it's like, it looks like somebody's just sitting there. It doesn't look like somebody's like, scared, trying to like, really get the fuck out of there. So I don't know. I don't know what happened after that. You know what I mean? I think me and the other people that were there just pretty much just thought this lady was just tripping. Cause like I said, this car wasn't driving crazy fast and doing maneuvers and shit like they were trying to get away from anybody. But I don't know if she's seen them grab a person and put them in the back seat or whatever. I don't know. But if that is what happened, then shit. I mean, I didn't hear anything else about it. And then another thing, like, dude, back in the day when I was younger, I used to drive my dad's truck. He had a pickup truck, and just as a joke to like people on the street, he used to have like this handcuff, but on the handcuff was like a fake arm. So you could see like the arm and the hand, pretty much the hand just sticking out of the top of the bed of the truck. And I remember I was driving, totally forgot that the hand was back there. You know what I mean? I think this might have been one of the first days that I started driving this truck. And I remember the police, I'm at the red light, and then the police are next to me. And then I see them get closer, and I'm kind of like, damn, man, they're about to fuck with me. Like, what did I do? Next thing you know, they roll down the window. They was like, hey, what's in the back? And you could tell, like, they were concerned. They seemed kind of, like, mad and concerned. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then they were like, in the back. Is there somebody in the back? And I was like, somebody in the back? I was like, in the back of the truck? So then I started getting worried because I'm like, yo, maybe somebody hopped back there and they're just back there chilling. Dude, I look back and then I'm like, oh, I was like, no, this is my dad's truck. I'm like, he does that as a joke. I was like, I totally forgot it's back there. So the cop, like, we're still at the red light. Like, one cop, like, if I remember right, he got out of the car at the red light and looks over. And then, like, he starts laughing. And then he gets back in the car. And I remember him, like, saying something to the other officer. Yeah, he did get out of the car. He ended up saying something to the other officer. And then they're both in the car just, like, dying laughing. And they're just like, have a good day. You know what I mean? But, yeah. I mean, that it was just, of course, that was a joke or whatever. But at the same time, imagine seeing that, though. Like, I remember, dude, real story. This lady that's a friend of my dad's, she was driving on this freeway that's out here. It's called the 110 freeway. So we live in Los Angeles. There is, which means like we're in California, Southern California. We're close to Mexico. So Mexico is probably like a couple of hours away or whatever. And in Los Angeles, there's like Mexican mafia or cartel type stuff that goes on. You don't really see it like that, but it does go on. And one thing that the cartels do is they're known for cutting up bodies, right? If you read about any towns or whatever in Mexico, cities or whatever, um, they'll kill the other people of a different cartel or whatever, chop them up, and then basically just put the pieces of the body out on display as like a symbol or a sign or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what we did. So my dad's friend is driving, and she basically tells us that, like, he said she was like scared, said like she was just like worried and everything. Said she was on the freeway. While she's on the freeway, like, they dump body parts out, and a fucking torso bounces off of the ground and hits her car. He said she came to work and she was just like out of it, just like going crazy or whatever. And I was just like, damn, she still went to work? Like, yo, I would have immediately seen that. I would have been like, yo, I'm going home. Like, I'm not about to, you know what I'm saying? So, and the 110 freeway connects to other freeways that do go down to our 405 freeway, which the 405 freeway does end up going straight to San Diego and everything. So 405 is the biggest freeway in California. And not even saying that came straight from Mexico. It could have been something that happened in Los Angeles, but at the same time, just crazy. And I always thought about that, and I'm like, yo, imagine driving and you see a fucking torso, like body parts just coming out of a vehicle, and they're just on the freeway, just like bouncing up, you know what I mean, from off of the concrete, and then like just hitting cars or whatever. And I've heard about it. I've heard about it different times, that happening. And then, you know what I mean, like, normally it's always like, okay, this is something that, like, you know, the cartel has done. Crazy shit, but real shit. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's get back into this video. Just saying it because the hand and then the body part stuff made me think about it. But yeah.
Dawkins would be at the center of one of the eerie mysteries that authorities would be puzzling over for years. On the outside, she seemed like a perfectly respectable literacy teacher at a local community center. She was married with 2 children. Shortly before the events that put her at the center of a media frenzy, she and her husband went through a painful divorce. Still, she was a popular teacher, with students who were devoted to her. In fact, the bizarre circumstances of her infamy suggest that her students may have been a little too devoted. It turns out that Harkins had been grooming a group of students for years. They were so devoted to her that they would believe anything that she said. So much so that when she told them that they had demons inside of them that only she could get out, they believed her.
She had these people kill themselves.
On June 9, 2012, she asked 7 students to meet her at dawn at her classroom to perform a blood ritual to remove the demons from their bodies.
Wow.
The ritual would involve making large cuts on their skin and then using a lighter to cauterize the wounds. During the ritual, the flames Harkins planned to use to cauterize the wounds got out of control, and 1 student received second-degree burns. Another was accidentally cut on the throat with a broken bottle.
Wow.
The students who participated in the ritual were so loyal to Harkins that none of them mentioned the ritual to their parents after the fact, even though 2 students were hurt. One of them did mention it to a friend, who immediately told her own parents. They reported the incident to police, who arrested Harkins. To this day, authorities have no idea what pushed Harkins to commit such bizarre acts against her own students. Some theorize that the bitter divorce from her husband, combined with a zealous interest in religion, may have been the trigger. But because the loyal students have remained tight-lipped about the incident, the truth remains a mystery.
Like, how do you listen to a person like that? Like, that just has you doing crazy shit.
Next creepy story was
like
the
cult
subject
leaders,
of a
like,
book
what?
and accompanying 90s film
Drink the
called
punch.
Haunted.
No.
It all started when a couple named Jack and Janet Smurl moved into their home on Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania in 1986. Before long, they were disturbed by what they described as demonic activity. It's been alleged that the aggressive being in the Smurls' home battered their dog against a wall, shook their mattress, dragged Jack Smurl out of bed, and pushed one of the couple's children down a flight of stairs. It's also said that the dark, otherworldly being also physically and sexually assaulted members of the household.
Wow.
Famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were brought in to examine the residence and determined that the home was occupied by a powerful demon. It was after the intervention of Reverend Joseph Antonizio of Immaculate Conception Parish in West Pittston that they finally got some relief. The couple claimed the activity quieted down. However, the occasional knocking sound or lurking shadow could still be observed. The Smurls eventually moved on from their infamous home just a few years later. The next family to move in shared that nothing strange at all could be observed. Questions have always lingered regarding what the Smurls really experienced inside their supposed haunted house. Professor Paul Kurtz of State University of New York at Buffalo was a vocal skeptic regarding the case. Kurtz and many others pushed the theory that the Smurls were experiencing a psychological event instead of a supernatural one. One interesting plot twist is that Jack Smurl told a newspaper reporter he underwent surgery to remove water from his brain in the early 1980s. This was after experiencing short-term memory loss stemming from meningitis in his youth. So could the famous Smurl haunting have been nothing more than hallucinations that got out of hand? Love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments section below.
That's crazy. Like, dude, people really go through this stuff, you know?
Its own share of wartime mysteries. For example, during the Battle of Mons, the British forces who were fighting the far greater numbers of the German army had an experience that many call a miracle. At the start of World War I, the Allies believed that victory would come swiftly and easily. At the Battle of Mons, they were proven wrong, when the British were forced to retreat. They suffered many casualties and public confidence began to waver. That is until stories began to spread about the mysterious forces that apparently appeared at a key moment in the battle to prevent the Allied forces from an even more devastating defeat. According to these stories, angels armed with bows appeared on the battlefield, alongside St. George, a soldier and patron saint of England. The aid of these heavenly soldiers allowed at least some of the British to escape the battle with their lives intact. Numerous accounts of the celestial soldiers were spread and published, and the stories significantly improved the morale of the Allies and their supporters. Many believed that the heavenly aid was a clear indication that they had a divine blessing and that their cause was just. Unfortunately, there was significant controversy over the truth of the tales. The most vocal critic was Welsh author Arthur Machen. Machen had published a short story entitled The Bowman in the London newspaper The Evening News that bore a strong resemblance to the tales of the Angels of Mons. In his story, a frightened and dejected soldier at the battle prays to St. George, who sends an angelic bowman to destroy a German battalion. Machen believed that the other accounts of heavenly intercession were hoaxes based on his fictional work. Were angels present at the Battle of Mons, serving as protectors of the Allied troops as they fought an impossible fight? Many still believe in the veracity of this story of divine providence.
I don't know, that would be crazy to see though, like,
Scotland was built in
if there was some more evidence.
On first glance, it appears to be a completely ordinary structure. However, it's actually the site of one of Scotland's most bizarre unsolved mysteries. There are many mysteries surrounding bridges. Bridges are symbolic of crossing over, making them a common setting for eerie ghost stories and urban legends. However, the Overton Bridge is unique. While it's the site of numerous unexplained deaths, those deaths have primarily been those of canines. According to locals, over 50 years, approximately 50 dogs
Fuck these
died
dogs.
there. The dogs were seen crossing over the bridge
Wow.
when they became agitated before eventually leaping over the side of the bridge.
That's a picture of an actual dog just jumping off?
By landing on the rocks below. Another 600 have been reported to have jumped from the bridge but survived. All of the dogs who have jumped from the bridge are breeds that are typically used for hunting. The leaps always occur on clear sunny days from between the last two ramparts on the right side of the bridge. One theory purports that this particular spot on the bridge represents an area where the world of the living is in close contact with the world of the dead. These dogs, with their keen senses, are able to discern the closeness of this other world and jump towards it, unknowingly leaping to their deaths.
Damn, that's sad.
Dumbarton also has an abnormally high suicide rate, leading
Wow.
many to believe that the area is home to some sort of supernatural activity, leading many to seek their own deaths. Others are more skeptical, however. One researcher has asserted that there's a strong animal scent coming from below the bridge that may have attracted the dogs. That, combined with unique geography that makes the area around the bridge appear to have an even plane rather than a steep drop-off, could have led the dogs to accidentally fall from the bridge. However, this explanation doesn't account for the increasing suicide rate in the nearby town.
That was a weird one. Like dogs just leaping?
Been
Like
unsolved
what?
for decades. In the case of the Atlas vampire, no one's been able to come up with a good answer since the case first came into the public's eye over a century ago. In 1932, a woman named Minnie living in an area of Stockholm known as Atlas realised that she hadn't seen or heard from her neighbour Lily Lindstrom for a few days. Lily lived alone and worked as a prostitute, so Minnie was understandably concerned about
She
her
was slanging
friend's
that thing.
safety. She decided to call the police and have them enter Lily's room to investigate. When the police entered the room, they sadly found Lily's deceased body lying face down on the bed. The body was naked and her clothes were folded neatly on a chair near the bed. When police examined the body, they determined that Lily had been killed by a blunt blow to the head.
Oh, I think I've heard of
Unfortunately,
this.
It isn't uncommon for sex workers to meet a violent end. However, upon further investigation, police quickly determined that Lily's case wasn't an average
There was
murder.
no blood at all.
One of the things that police often look for when investigating a murder is the pattern of blood in and around the crime scene.
Yeah,
However,
I remember
there
this.
wasn't a speck of blood in Lily's room. In fact, medical investigators determined that there wasn't even blood in Lily's body. Someone had drained every last drop from her. They also found saliva on her face and neck, which led many to believe that she'd been the victim of a vampire. Skeptics point out that this detail could be easily explained by Lily's line of work, but not all of the clues can be easily explained away.
For years, I
For
always
example,
thought the
police
story
later
was so
found a
crazy.
blood-stained ladle in the apartment that could have been used to drink Lily's blood. Despite heavy news coverage of the Atlas vampire and an extensive investigation, the identity of Lily's killer remains a mystery. First published in 1967, Stranger at the Pentagon was written by multiple PhD recipient Dr. Frank Strangers. Many believe that it is, in fact, a true account of an alien being from Venus named Valiant Thor, who acted as an advisor to the US government during the 1950s and 60s. One of the most chilling mysteries of the last century, the story implies that the US government has been secretly meeting with beings from other planets for some time. Valiant Thor, who supposedly had an IQ of 1200, was said to have travelled to Earth by spacecraft, landing in Alexandria, Virginia. Soon, meeting with US President Eisenhower and Vice President Nixon, Thor would claim to have come to Earth from Venus. A benevolent Venusian, Thor's only intentions were to help Earth evade certain peril. He cited everything from the Cold War to nuclear weapons development, and also offered advice on dealing with other alien races. In an effort to keep the universe in balance and avoid certain disaster, Thor would dedicate himself to solving Earth's problems. Bringing his wisdom to Earth, it would seem he would at least partially be believed, as he would go on to maintain VIP status in the Pentagon from 1957 to 1960. Explaining life on Venus, Thor stated his race of people maintained life underground, a way of life familiar to many races throughout the universe. He would also inform them that various groups of life forms from several planetary systems would soon arrive to help Earth prosper. Thor would exercise his vision and influence over the Earth for several years in an attempt to divert the planet from a seemingly inevitable disaster. Whether or not Valiant Thor really was an alien from Venus remains a mystery. However, the man actually did exist, and on occasion even appeared in public, including an appearance at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. Supposedly, the reason why Thor
Wait, how
chose
did they know
Dr.
that was
Strangers
this?
to tell his story
Somebody's
was
just like,
because
yeah,
of
that's him.
Stranger's devout Christian faith. According to Thor, the Bible was a correct representation of the truth, but Jesus Christ was an alien, not a human.
Dude, and they
If
say
Dr.
that in
Strange's
Ancient
account of
Aliens too.
Valiant Thor is indeed true, it would change world history and our planet as we know it. What's more, it proposes the idea that many alien life forms have since visited Earth and acted as advisors in a similar capacity, leaving us to wonder if we'll ever know the true extent of what our governments are hiding.
That's crazy.
When the Broadus family bought their new home at
I heard
657
people be like
Boulevard in New
believing that.
Jersey, they thought they were fulfilling a dream, not beginning a series of eerie mysteries that would haunt their nightmares for years to come. In a case that's been dubbed The Watcher, the beautiful new home purchased by the Broaduses became tainted by a mysterious individual who refused to leave the family in peace. Derek Broadus grew up in a working class family, so he was ecstatic when he was able to work his way up to a vice president level at the insurance company where he worked. With his new salary, the family was able to afford the beautiful new home at 657 Boulevard. 3 days after they closed on the house, Derek and his wife Maria were in the house doing some renovations before moving in, when they stepped outside to check the mail. Inside, they found an envelope addressed only to the new owner. The note inside began simply enough, by welcoming the new owners to the neighborhood. However, as the letter went on, it began to take sinister turns. The writer stated that their family had been watching the house since it had been built, and that they have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. The writer then listed the things they had already noticed about the new owner's family, indicating that they had already begun watching. The note included a warning about the renovations, stating, "I see that you've already flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. Bad move, you don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy." The writer also ominously mentioned Derek and Maria's 3 children, even asking if they planned to have any more. "Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family, or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me." The letter had no return address and was signed The Watcher. In a panic, Derek Broadus called the police. He even sent an email to the home's former owners to ask if they had had a similar experience while living in the home. They stated that they had received only one letter but disregarded it. Over the next few months, the Broaduses continued working on renovating the house, while also attempting to identify the identity of the Watcher. They installed a security system and did research on the home's history, but the letters kept coming and continued to become more ominous, such as claiming that something was in the home's walls. When the time came to move into the home, the family was terrified to have their children living so close to the Watcher. They only lived in the home for a short time. 6 months after the first letter arrived, they put the house on the market. Not long after, they decided to file a legal claim against the previous owners, claiming they should have been informed about the previous Watcher letter. This caused the story of the Watcher to go viral. Yet, despite the story's fame, no one has succeeded in discovering the true identity of the terrifying stalker, who managed to turn the Broadus family's dream home into a nightmare.
Shit, I would have been gone too.
The case of Cornelia Zangiri Bandi is one of the longest paranormal mysteries to still plague the experts. Her bizarre death has gone unsolved since 1731. Cornelia was an Italian noblewoman born in 1664. During her lifetime, she married and had 7 children, 2 of whom would go on to become important figures in the Catholic Church. However, these children were not the most noteworthy part of her legacy. Instead, Cornelia would be known and remembered for the unusual way in which she died at age 66.
My shit is still moving.
Cornelia's last night alive, her dinner companions noted that she seemed unusually lethargic. They didn't read into her behaviour all that much, assuming that she had consumed too much brandy. Cornelia was known to be a heavy drinker, and often applied brandy mixed with camphor to her body to relieve pain. After dinner, her maid helped her to her room, where the two spent 3 hours praying together. This was a normal part of the Countess's routine, and also raised no red flags. However, Cornelia failed to appear at the usual time the following morning. The maid went into Cornelia's bedchambers to check on her, where she made a startling discovery. Nearly every surface of the room was covered in soot. The maid discovered a pile of ash a few feet away from the bed. This heap, along with a few assorted body parts, was all that remained of the Countess. Many assumed that the Countess had burned to death. The bedsheets suggested that she had risen at some point during the night, and an oil lamp was found in the room. However, further inspection showed that the lamp was empty of oil. In addition, the fabrics and other surfaces in the room were covered in soot, but otherwise undamaged. How could Cornelia have burned to death without singeing other flammable items in the room? Many believe that the death of Countess Cornelia Zangiri Bandi is an early example of the phenomenon known as spontaneous human combustion, a peculiar anomaly in which the human body seems to catch fire without any external source of ignition. There have been numerous documented cases over the years, and experts have yet to stumble upon a reasonable explanation for the deaths. The sleeping sickness sweeping through Kazakhstan's
this is a long video. Damn.
Scientists for years. Leaving his home one morning, village resident Viktor Kazachenko set out to run a few errands. However, he awoke confused 6 days later, having slept the entire time. Upon waking, Kazachenko felt unwell, on edge, and not quite all there. Many other residents of Kalachi have suffered the same fate. Falling asleep for days, the residents have awoken feeling nauseated and dizzy, with horrible headaches and even memory loss resulting from their time asleep. The mysterious ailment has plagued over 150 residents of the village, with many suffering more than once. The sleeping plague that is tormenting the citizens of Kalachi has become one of the most chilling mysteries the government of Kazakhstan has ever faced. Attempting to get to the bottom of the mystery, scientists tested radiation levels, as well as the concentration of heavy metal salts in the area. Both results came back normal. However, it was later determined that increased carbon monoxide levels from a nearby abandoned mine might have been responsible. The government has since offered voluntary relocation assistance to the citizens of Kalachi. However, not all residents are so quick to leave their lifelong homes behind, finding themselves unsure if they'll once again be struck down by this mysterious affliction. Another of the Great War's bizarre wartime mysteries features a colonel who was badly injured during a battle. A grenade exploded close to him, and he tragically lost one of his arms. This devastating injury forced him to be evacuated from the battlefield by medics. Not long after, several of the colonel's men saw him on the battlefield. A sergeant major notified the company's acting commander that the colonel had returned. The commander looked up, and sure enough, the colonel was standing nearby. The commander reported that the colonel wore his cap to the side as he always did, his boots were caked in mud, and that he had binoculars around his neck. The commander began walking towards the colonel, but stopped when he dropped his walking stick. When he looked back up, the colonel was gone. The commander quickly headed towards the company headquarters and questioned numerous other men. They all reported that they had seen the colonel, but that he had disappeared suddenly. Then one of the men made a startling observation. When the men had seen the colonel, he had both of his arms. The commander and other soldiers were perplexed by this mystery. Their confusion grew when they later found out what had happened to the colonel after he was evacuated. Shortly after leaving the battlefield, before even reaching a field hospital, the colonel had succumbed to his injuries and died. It happened so quickly that there was no chance he could have reappeared on the battlefield. In 1959, 9 hikers mysteriously disappeared near the Datlov Pass in Russia. Almost 20 years
all of these
later,
stories
on
are
February
weird
24th,
and different. And
a similar disappearance occurred.
I mean, they're
near
paranormal
Palmetto,
stories,
California.
but still.
Because of the
Palmetto,
similarities
California.
between the two unsolved mysteries, the latter incident became known as the American Datlov Pass. The case began when Gary Mathias, Jack Hewitt, William Sterling, Ted Weir, and Jack Madruga left a basketball game in Chico, California. None made it home. Their families quickly organized a search that eventually located the car in which the group had been traveling. The car was stuck in the mud near Palmetto, 30 miles from Chico. Even though the car was stuck, the 5 men could have easily gotten it out. The car had adequate gas and no other signs of a problem, yet there was no sign of the missing men. Months later, Ted Weir's body was found on a mattress in a cabin about a mile away. His shoeless body was covered by a makeshift shroud and surrounded by open food cans. There was no sign that the cabin's heat had been turned on or that a fire had been made. Weir had lost a significant amount of weight and grown a beard before dying of starvation, suggesting he was alive for several months after his disappearance. Authorities were puzzled. How could he have died of starvation when surrounded by open food containers? Why wasn't he wearing shoes, and who covered his body? The skeletal remains of 3 of the other men were later found nearby, but provided no additional clues.
This is crazy.
The prevailing theory is that the men's mental illnesses were to blame for the incident. George Mathias, who has never been located, suffered from schizophrenic episodes, and the other 4 men had various mental illnesses.
All of them?
Authorities theorized that Mathias had a stress-induced episode, and the others left the car to avoid being harmed. However, this theory doesn't explain why Weir would have slowly starved to death in a cabin full of food, or why the others would have left the safety of the cabin. The mystery officially remains unsolved. Predating the internet, the 1-800-GOLF tip mystery has only been kept alive thanks to sleuths who remember this sensation from the 1990s. In a detailed post to Reddit, user OIGetJokes has compiled a mix of first-hand experience calling the number, as well as various other accounts from around the internet of what others can remember. Advertised the old-fashioned way, using at least 1 and possibly more billboards across Canada and even the United States, the phone number seemed to be designed to call in order to receive advice about golf. However, upon calling the number, users quickly became perplexed as to what they were hearing. The only sound on the other end of the line, regardless of how many times it was called, was the voice of a man counting from 1 to 10. The heavily accented voice would repeat the numbers over and over again until a loud siren could be heard after the 3rd or 4th time. The mystery surrounding this phone number has had people talking about it for years. As further explained in a video posted to YouTube by channel Barely Sociable, a website named 1800golftip.com has appeared as a dedicated space for those who remember their experiences with the mysterious number. What several sources cite is a distinct variation in the placement of a notable pause between the numbers, seemingly impossible for a pre-recorded line. For so many people to have the same memory of the recording, except for the variances in timing, only serves to deepen the mystery. Some have speculated that the number might have originally been set up by the government as a way to test mind control techniques. In fact, some worry the effects of the recordings have outlived the now defunct phone number, perhaps brainwashing thousands.
Sort of shit has nothing to do with golf.
Proves its history is complicated and convoluted, with the number now redirecting to a phone sex hotline. It's unclear what exactly happened to the original owner of the number or what their intention was. However, the phone number's legacy has far outlived itself, proving a mystery to online audiences affected by it even decades later. For more information about the 1-800-GOLF tip number, check out Barely Sociable's video on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description box below.
Wonder what the numbers were for.
On February 13, 2017, Abigail Williams and Liberty German disappeared from the Delphi Historic Trails in Delphi, Indiana. Authorities assumed that the girls had gotten lost when they failed to appear at their check-in location. However, their bodies were found the next day near the trail where they had disappeared. The details of their deaths are unknown, but authorities determined that they had been murdered. What seems like a simple yet tragic case quickly became one of the area's eeriest unsolved mysteries. Soon after the girls' bodies were discovered, police discovered strange recordings on Liberty German's phone. A muffled voice can be heard saying, "Guys, down the hill." It appeared that the girl had begun recording while her phone was inside her pocket. Authorities have called these actions heroic. The eerie recordings were circulated in hopes that someone would recognize the voice and allow authorities to bring the killer to justice. Thousands of tips poured in, but none led to the killer's identity. Police later released a longer recording, but parts of the video are still being kept under wraps. Followers of the case believe that the recording captured the girls' deaths, and that authorities are reluctant to make that portion of the video public. Cameras on the trail captured a grainy shot of a man walking alone on the trail near the time that the girls went missing. Authorities believe that this man may be the culprit, but have been unable to identify him. Despite the evidence captured in Liberty German's frightening recording, the murderer remains at large.
It's crazy, dude. People do some crazy stuff. Most likely he is the killer, you know what I mean?
Many wartime mysteries are difficult to prove, none more so than the enigmatic Operation Cone of Power. In June of 1940, France succumbed to the German forces after only 6 weeks of fighting. With its neighbour across the sea under German control, Britain began preparing for what they believed to be an inevitable invasion from the sea. In fact, intelligence suggested that Hitler's forces had already begun preparing ships for the invasion. Many cities along England's southern coast began preparing to defend against the German barges. The coast was barricaded with sandbags and barbed wire, and volunteers kept a constant watch on the horizon. Yet the German ships never appeared. According to Gerald Gardner, a retired British civil servant, the citizens of England's coastal towns should be thanking a group of witches for their salvation.
Witches?
Gardner has stated that during World War II, as during other dangerous wars, the country's witches gathered together to combine their power against enemy forces. Apparently, the sea witches met in an ancient forest on the eve of Lammas Day to weave their spells. Together, they projected messages into Hitler's mind, urging him to believe that his troops couldn't cross the sea. The military, when it became aware of the ritual, mockingly gave it the codename Operation Cone of Power. Gardner, a founder of the modern-day religion of Wicca, researched this operation by interviewing descendants of the witches and scouring their diaries. He claims to have found numerous accounts of the mysterious ritual. He believes that although no one can prove that the witches were responsible for stopping the German forces, he is certain that the ritual did take place. Gardner even found evidence that 2 of the witches partaking in the ritual mysteriously died. Rumour has it that these witches died for the cause, giving every last ounce of strength to repel Hitler's forces. Others are less keen to believe these stories. Historian Ronald Hutton has stated that there's no real evidence to support Gardner's claims, and that the story could be a fabrication meant to make modern-day Wiccans seem more patriotic instead of as enemies. Beginning in the 1850s, a spirit known as John King was alleged to appear regularly during seances held by mediums Frank Hearn and Charles Williams. In 1870, they took a new medium under their wing, Florence Cook. It's said that Florence soon began manifesting a different spirit, Katie King, believed to be John King's daughter. At the seances run by Florence, believers would gather in a dimly lit room with no one else present in the house. Spiritualists believed that spirits would only appear under these specific conditions, but skeptics asserted that it was just a ruse to hide the fact that the seances were a hoax. The medium, in this case Florence, would be secluded in a dark space, usually a large cabinet or bedroom. After a time, the spirit of Katie King would emerge to interact with the believers, even touching their hands. Often the guests would be shown the covered figure of the medium lying in the cabinet. However, the figure was never uncovered, allowing skeptics to speculate about what was really under the fabric. At one seance, investigator William Volkman attended on behalf of a rival medium in an effort to discredit Florence. He noted that Katie looked very similar to Florence and rose from his chair during the seance to grab the spirit by the waist. He accused her of being a fraud. The others in the room wrestled her away and returned her to the cabinet. They later hired another investigator, Sir William Crooks, for support. During some seances with Crooks, the spirit of Katie King allowed herself to be weighed and measured. The measurements varied, but Katie was always taller than Florence and had a different complexion. Some believers insisted that at times they could see both Katie and Florence together clearly, and that it was impossible for Florence to be masquerading as a spirit. Florence Cook and Katie King caused a great deal of controversy in their time, but the truth about their seances remains a mystery.
Most likely it was like the same person,
On
right?
November 22
I would
of
think so.
1941, a strange ad appeared in the New Yorker magazine. At the top of the ad was a headline reading, "Achtung, warning alert." Beneath was a photo of people playing dice in an air raid shelter, and text that read, "We hope you'll never have to spend a long winter's night in an air raid shelter, but we were just thinking, it's only common sense to be prepared. If you're not too busy between now and Christmas, why not sit down and plan a list of things you'll want to have on hand? And though it's no time really to be thinking of what's fashionable, we bet that most of your friends will remember to include those intriguing dice and chips, which make Chicago's favourite game, the Deadly Double."
What?
Throughout the magazine, there are other smaller ads featuring the name of the game and dice with the numbers 12 and 7. The ad was certainly odd. The reference to an air raid shelter seemed out of place, as at the time the United States had stated that it would not get involved with the war in Europe. In addition, the numbers on the dice were not numbers that would typically appear on such game pieces. The content of the ad became the focus of a military investigation 2 weeks later, when Japanese forces attacked a United States base at Pearl Harbor, thus prompting the country to enter into the war. The attack occurred on December 7, reflecting the numbers 12 and 7 on the dice in the ad. This, paired with the strange reference to air raid shelters, led some to believe that the ad had been placed as a warning about the impending attack. Officials were assigned to investigate the matter, but everything led to dead ends. The ad had been submitted in person and had been paid for in cash. The employee who took the money couldn't recall anything about the person who submitted the copy. Was the ad a cryptic warning or merely a bizarre coincidence? Without additional evidence about the mysterious individual who walked into the offices of the New Yorker and placed the ad, the truth remains an enigma.
Probably was a warning. I mean, it sounds like it. A mysterious person comes in, they knew something.
It was a windy, rainy day in Shelby, North Carolina. Early that morning, before the rest of the family was awake, 9-year-old Asher Degree packed up items into her backpack and left the house. Between 3:45 and 4:15 a.m., several motorists saw her walking along Highway 18. When one attempted to approach her, she left the road and ran into the woods. This is the last time anyone saw her. She was soon reported missing, setting into motion one of America's longest unsolved mysteries. At first, many believed that Asher had simply run away from home. Her life was sheltered, spent primarily with family and at church. Some investigators suggested that she had run away to escape these restrictions. However, Asher's family described her as an extremely shy child who would be unlikely to set out from home alone. Upon further investigation, authorities found nothing in Asher's life to suggest that she would have reason to run away. Yet, all of the doors and windows in the house had been locked, indicating that Asher left the house under her own volition and locked the doors behind her. During an extensive search, a few of Asher's personal belongings were located in a shed near the spot where Asher disappeared into the woods. No further clues were found until a year and a half after she went missing, when Asher's backpack was located during an excavation of a construction project along Highway 18. The backpack was wrapped in plastic, but additional information about this vital clue has not been made public. Years later, the FBI publicly asked for information on 2 other possible clues: a copy of McElliott's Pool by Dr. Seuss that had been checked out from the school library, and a white t-shirt featuring the New Kids on the Block. It's unclear how these items relate to the disappearance, as investigators have been tight-lipped about the case. So why did Asher leave her house on that grey, rainy morning? What happened to her after she left? Authorities are still struggling to answer these questions.
Some weird shit going on in the house, I guess.
Now,
I
if
don't
you want
know.
to see some more unsolved...
That was crazy. That was a long video. Almost an hour long for that one video, but still crazy as hell, of course. You know what I'm saying? Alright, so let's look up the video that the person suggested. It was called the... Alright, I already looked it up the other day. Alright, cool. There we go. So it's a trailer, so I'm guessing this is it. People have already been doing reactions to it, so let's see what this is about.
The world is in
The
shock.
Lady of
A group
Heaven.
Terrorists has taken control of large areas of Syria and Iraq.
The world can be a cruel and dangerous place. Remember, even if you're afraid, be strong. Your loving mother, Fatima.
Did your mother ever tell you the story of the Lady of Heaven?
She was very special.
Daughter to the Prophet Muhammad.
My time is near. And afterwards, my lovely Fatima, you will face many trials.
With my father no longer here to lead us, evil is with those who will extinguish the light of truth.
You're gonna let a woman tell us what to do. We will burn her out.
Damn, okay, so they
God
killed
will
her?
judge all of you.
This world has become a breeding ground of violence. And shadow will be cast across many generations to come.
It said some people are so full of faith. They give strength to everyone around them.
The greatest thing in this life and the hereafter is the spreading of peace in the world.
Lady Fatima's goodness inspired people to stand up, no matter what the cost. Her legacy lives on.
Okay, I thought it was gonna be something else. Like, I thought it was gonna be like something that had to do with any of the streams that I was doing. I don't know why that person suggested that I watch it. I looked up the name of the movie and then like typed it in and what it was about. And in the thing, it was basically saying like it was like this area, I guess people were seeing something. Like it was like how I said in the stream where it was like people were seeing like angels or some shit like that, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I thought it was gonna be something like that. I don't know why they wanted me to the Lady of Heaven. I don't know if it's their channel. This isn't the person that said it, so I don't know. I guess they just wanted me to play it or whatever. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I'm sure people are gonna find it as a good movie. It's, you know, over 2 million views. But it had nothing to do with the stream that I was talking about. But anyway, hopefully you guys did enjoy the stream. I'm gonna end it here. Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of the stuff that was going on in tonight's stream. I wish everything could have just been all together, but like I said, the stream messed up. Well, not really the stream, but my webcam did, and it just froze. So, other than that, like, dude, I think it was a cool time. That one video was like an hour long with a lot of crazy stuff that was going on. I do rather see like the videos than see the pictures, but then also like if the story is cool or, you know, whatever happened is interesting, I don't mind the pictures, but I'd rather see like the videos where it's like certain shit is happening, you know what I mean? But other than that, like a lot of these things, like I said, like some of them can probably be explained in other ways where it might not have even been paranormal. But at the same time, like I always keep saying, the idea of these things happening is very, very, very crazy. And that makes you think like, dude, like imagine experiencing this stuff right in front of you. You know what I mean? That's the real crazy part. I wanted to look into a little bit more of like the alien stuff, but yeah, I didn't know that video was going to be that long. Plus, yeah, I mean, well, that's pretty much it. The video is long as hell, so it's late as hell. It's almost 4 in the morning. But yeah, for the most part, like I always enjoy making these videos because so far I haven't came across a video where it's like, oh, okay, I seen that clip in the previous stream. You know what I mean? So that's good. Like every time I do these streams, I'm just seeing like fresh stuff. And even though I used to watch Slap Tam's channel so much, like without even doing these reaction videos, I used to just watch Slap Tam everywhere. I would watch it on my phone at work. I would just watch it while I'm out. Like I would just watch Slap Tam so much, and or other like paranormal videos or whatever like that. So that's how I knew about some of the stories. But some of the stories I didn't know about through Slap Tam. It was like I just heard about it years ago or whatever. But it's cool experiencing new stuff each time. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like it's like recycled stuff. And I guess, of course, that's a good thing. You know what I mean? But in a way, a bad thing, because people are going through all of these experiences. They're scared. They're in their house. They can't explain a lot of it. And just for the purpose of us doing this reaction is very good, because it's new content, it's fresh content. You know what I mean? You guys can keep coming back to these streams and seeing something different than the last one. But the next one, I definitely will look up some more alien stuff. I wish that clip from that movie, that trailer from that movie, would have been something that fit the situation a little bit more. I don't know why the person told me to watch it. I responded to them and told them that I would react to the trailer of that movie, but other than that, like, I mean, it seems like it's interesting in a way, but other than that, I don't think it's a movie I'm gonna be like, oh man, I gotta see it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I want you guys to stay tuned for more, man. Hopefully you guys did enjoy, and if you guys did enjoy, please leave a thumbs up. If you guys know of any other paranormal stuff, leave it down in the comment section. Like I said, I normally just stick to Slap Tam, because when I did my second stream of the paranormal stuff, I started trying to watch other channels, and the clips that they were putting out there were just like so whack. Either they just seemed super fake, or it was like a channel where it's like they kind of made their own clips, and it was just like, I don't really trust those. You know what I mean? At least Slap Tam, he's getting it from different places. Like some of these things are on the news, and some of these are like known stories from around the world. It's like a little bit more credible. But still, it's paranormal, dude. You know what I mean? Like I said, even if you guys are watching it and some of you guys might think some of this stuff is real, as to where I might think that it's fake or it can be explained in other ways, as long as you guys find it interesting, that's all that matters. But I think I'm gonna still keep sticking to Slap Tam, because he has the best videos. Go check that channel out, and remember, you guys stay dope, man. Hopefully you guys do subscribe and come back, because it's fun doing this. I got other videos coming, vlogs and all that, so stay tuned. You guys stay dope, and I will check you out later. Peace. What the hell?